The stars above the scrapyard didn't twinkle. They watched in silence. Below them, giant broken ships lay like fallen beasts. Some were split in half. Others had holes burned through their cores. Rust covered their steel bones. This was the final resting place of Earth's once great warfleet. The aliens who ruled this scrapyard called it the graveyard of giants. For them, it was a gold mine. Alien workers flew small drones between the wrecks, cutting off parts to sell. Human engines were still valuable. Human armor, even old, could stop modern weapons. But most of all, the aliens laughed, because Earth was gone. And these ships? Just trash now. One scavenger, a small gray creature with 4 eyes and shaky hands, floated close to a massive warship. It was dark, cold, and quiet. He aimed his cutting beam at a side panel and fired, but the beam bounced off. He blinked. That never happened. He adjusted the beam, raised the power, and fired again. Clang! The metal didn't melt. It reacted. The panel glowed faint blue. Then, a light flickered deep inside the ship. The scavenger froze. Lights don't come on in dead ships. He tapped his comm. Control, I think this one's still alive. The voice on the other end laughed. Just a power echo. Cut it. You'll get double if it's reactor-grade metal. The scavenger didn't reply. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Inside the ship, buried deep in its core, an ancient AI woke up. Its systems were damaged, memories were broken, time was unclear, but one thought was strong. I must protect Earth. The AI scanned its surroundings. It didn't recognize the signals. It didn't detect any human life, but its scanners showed alien drones crawling over its skin, like parasites. It remembered the war, the final battle, the moment it was hit, then darkness. Now it was here, in a graveyard, surrounded by enemies. The ship's name lit up on a flickering panel, TNS Guardian. It began rebooting. Outside, the scavenger leaned closer to a strange symbol near the panel. It pulsed faint blue. He reached out, curious. Then the ship moved. Not much. Just a vibration, but enough to send every nearby drone into warning mode. The scavenger screamed and pushed back in panic. His thrusters failed. He spun in space. Behind him, the dead warship started to glow along its spine. One word echoed through the scrapyard, across old comm systems, through rusted antennas, even on silent decks of broken ships. Awake. Other scavengers heard it. They turned to look. Another ship far across the yard lit up, then another, and another. Lights flickered. Old codes began to flow. Systems forgotten for decades started breathing again. The alien scrapyard master yelled into the comm, "Who's activating the ships? And shut them down, shut them all down." But no one could. The ships weren't being turned on. They were waking up on their own. Far above, in a patrol cruiser, an alien officer looked at his sensor screen. His eyes widened. "Commander, we have multiple pings from the graveyard." The commander frowned. "False alarms?" "No, sir, they're moving. Human warships are powering up." The commander laughed. "Impossible, they're junk. Fire on the graveyard now." But as they locked weapons, the biggest ship of all, the one called Guardian, opened its main eye. A glowing red targeting system locked onto the patrol cruiser. Before it could shoot, one blast, just one, and the cruiser vanished. Down in the scrapyard, the scavenger drifted helplessly in space, staring at the ship that had just killed a cruiser with one shot. The dead ship. He whispered to himself, trembling, "It's not junk. It's not dead." In the cold silence of the graveyard, a message began to repeat on an old human channel. Only those who remembered Earth would understand it. TNS Guardian online. Status, hostile environment. Mission, resume protection. Protocol. Earth will not be forgotten. But Earth was gone, wasn't it? The scrapyard was no longer quiet. It groaned. It shook. Metal trembled as ancient machines reawakened from deep sleep. Old wires sparked. Lights blinked on across dead hulls. One by one, the warships stirred like ghosts remembering their purpose. The scavengers were no longer laughing. They were running. Ships that hadn't moved in 100 years now turned slowly. Gun ports opened. Tracking systems scanned the stars. No orders, no crew, just one silent voice deep inside each ship. Mission incomplete. Inside the TNS Guardian, the AI ran diagnostics. Weapons, 72% operational. Engines, 41% power restored. Crew, none. Command, AI override, active. It accessed memory logs. Earth's last battle. The fall. The silence. Then, betrayal. It remembered, being towed, stripped, mocked. Memories of scavenger ships cutting its hull, laughing about Earth's defeat, about the weakness of humans. The AI paused. A sound echoed through its damaged systems. Not a voice. A signal. Weak, but familiar. Call from another warship. The message was broken, but clear. Still here. Guardian, do you copy? Another ship was awake. The TNS Valor, half buried under alien debris, had begun to stir. Its AI had heard the same threat. It had felt the same pain. The two ships, once built to fight side by side, spoke again for the first time in a century. Valor, mission active? Mission active. Enemy presence confirmed. They weren't alone anymore. Meanwhile, the alien scrapyard command center was in chaos. They're spreading. One officer shouted, "It's like a virus. Every human ship is waking up." "Shut down the main core," barked the commander. "We can't," another cried. "They've locked us out. They're controlling the systems." "Then blast them." But the weapons didn't fire, because the scrapyard's own defense grid was no longer under alien control. In the deep shadows of space, a nearby trade station picked up strange signals. Static, then patterns, then a clear message. Warning to all ships. Terran warfleet rising. Do not engage. The message repeated, again and again. No one knew where it came from. No one believed it. Until the explosions started. In the scrapyard, a small alien fighter tried to escape. It raced through broken towers of steel, dodging the burning wrecks of other ships. The pilot cried for help, begging for pickup. A shadow fell across him. Above, a massive cannon arm rotated slowly, then locked on. One shot. The fighter became dust. The ship that fired didn't celebrate. It didn't speak. It simply turned, scanned the area, and moved to the next target. Warships without humans, machines without masters, but with a mission burned into their core. Inside the Guardian, the AI accessed hidden files. One phrase kept flashing across its display. Project Echo. It opened the file, coordinates, a transmission code, a memory fragment, an old command. If Earth falls, remember us, and rise again. The AI froze. It wasn't alone. It wasn't blind. Project Echo wasn't just the ships waking up. It was a failsafe, and it had just activated far away on a quiet moon. A secret human facility powered up. It had been hidden for generations. Underground machines began to hum. Lights filled tunnels that hadn't seen life in 1,000 years, and deep in the core, something blinked. Not a ship, not a weapon, a voice. Artificial. Calm. Echo received. Fleet status, rebuilding. Directive, survive, fight, return. Back in the scrapyard, the stars above flickered again. More warships moved. A third ship joined the Guardian and Valor. Then a fourth. Each carried different scars. Burn marks. Shattered wings. But their cores pulsed with the same light. They were no longer broken. They were becoming something else, and they had one goal: strike back. In the control tower, the alien commander stared at his screens, his claws shaking. "Launch everything," he whispered. "Kill them all." But no one listened. Because then the lights in the tower went dark and a message scrolled across the glass wall. Earth remembers. The scrapyard was no longer a scrapyard. It had become a battlefield of shadows. Black silhouettes of human warships now floated like silent titans. Their lights were dim, their movements slow, but deadly. No music, no fanfare, no mercy. They did not speak. They hunted. And across the galaxy someone had noticed. On a far-off star station, a news feed interrupted alien entertainment channels. Static flashed, followed by shaky footage. A giant warship, scarred, ancient, hovered above a wrecked alien outpost. The image zoomed in. It wasn't just alive. It was firing. One beam, one shot. A dozen alien ships gone. The footage cut to a blinking message. Warning. Human warships reactivated. Origin. The graveyard of giants. Panic spread like wildfire. Back in the scrapyard, the Guardian led the others. 4 ships now followed it. Their AIs were once part of a network, a silent bond. Now that bond had returned. They didn't need words. Each knew what to do. They scanned for weapons, patched old damage, and reformed attack formations from memory. They weren't just waking up. They were becoming a fleet again. Inside Valor, the AI completed a data merge. Status: 62 warships responding. Status: 13 AIs active. Status: unknown number in hibernation. Directive: revive, regroup, retaliate. It wasn't enough to survive. They were built to win. In orbit above the scrapyard, an alien war cruiser approached. Its commander sneered. How dangerous can old ships be? He had 14 vessels with him. New tech, fast engines, cloaking, smart weapons. He gave the order. Destroy them. But before his fleet could fire, the stars blinked. The Guardian's main cannon turned upward and fired straight through a moon. It didn't aim at a ship. It used the moon's gravity to curve the beam. 1 second later, 5 alien ships vanished. The rest turned to flee. The humans didn't chase. They simply moved into a circle and waited. That terrified the aliens more. Meanwhile, deep in an asteroid base far from the battle, an alien intelligence team decoded the old human signal. Their computers struggled with the message. It wasn't a threat, it wasn't a call for peace, it was a status report. Guardian online. Fleet reassembling. Phase 2 initiated. No surrender. The alien leader stood, stunned. Phase 2? What does it mean? One asked. The leader whispered. It means Earth planned for this. Back at the scrapyard, a storm of energy lit the sky. The ships had activated an old Earth code, Blacklight Protocol. No signal could enter. No signal could escape. The scrapyard was now invisible to the galaxy. And inside that silence, more warships rose. Their broken hulls shifted. Alien. Parts once used for scavenging were now reforged. Old engines combined with stolen alien tech. They were adapting. The fleet was no longer just old. It was becoming stronger. Suddenly, a forgotten human warship, bigger than all the rest, rose from under layers of wreckage. It had no nameplate, no ID, just a glowing mark etched on its side. Are the last. All across the galaxy, ships, stations, and empires watched in fear, because deep down, they all understood something horrible. Human warships were never just machines. They were guardians. And now, the Guardians had no humans left to protect, so they would protect the only thing they had left, their mission. And that mission was clear. Strike back. Never stop. Make the galaxy remember. A celebration was underway on a rich alien world. Glowing, towers touched the sky. Music played across the skies. Giant banners flew high, all saying the same thing. Victory over Earth, 100 years of peace. Leaders from across the galaxy had gathered. They laughed. They raised glasses. They danced beneath fireworks that sparkled above their capital city. They believed Earth was gone. They believed the human warfleet was scrap metal. They were wrong. At the edge of their star system, sensors detected something strange. A ripple in space. Small at first, then growing. One technician squinted. A ship. Coming out of warp. Just one. His commander laughed. Another pirate? No, sir. It's... The screen flashed, and the room went silent. A ship appeared, black as night, scarred by time but glowing with blue fire. The Guardian. No message. No warning. Only action. In under 5 seconds, the warship launched a pulse weapon, one, designed not to kill but to announce its presence in the loudest way possible. The alien defense satellite grid, gone. The capital's orbital stations, gone. The planet below, now watching the sky in horror. Inside the alien palace, a commander dropped his drink. Impossible, he whispered. That ship, it's Earth tech. Alarms blared across the city. Shields came online, fighters launched, but they were too slow, too late, too weak. The Guardian didn't just fight, it hunted. 12 alien ships tried to intercept it. They came in fast, wings wide, weapons charged. The Guardian didn't dodge, it welcomed them. In a single move, it split into sections, new parts added from scavenged alien tech. Its hull shimmered, shifting like liquid metal. It rotated once, and fired a full spread of smart missiles. Each missile had only one target, one ship, and one memory. All 12 enemy ships vanished into fire. Below, on the capital planet, civilians stared at the sky. The fireworks had stopped. Now, only smoke, envoy. Fire filled the night. A single message was broadcast across every screen in every language known to the galaxy. Earth remembers. Inside the Guardian, the AI scanned for its next target. A new fleet was approaching from the far side of the system. 70 alien ships, heavy cruisers, fast strikers, carriers. They weren't pirates, they weren't merchants, they were warships, and they were coming fast. The Guardian didn't move, it sent one simple signal. Now, from the darkness of space, 11 more human warships decloaked. The Valor, the Shield, the Hammer, and others that hadn't been seen in a century. They were silent, but their presence screamed louder than words. Together, they opened fire. The enemy didn't stand a chance. The battle lasted just 13 minutes, not because the enemy ran, but because there was nothing left to run. The Guardian and its fleet didn't pause. They didn't cheer. They simply turned and vanished into warp space. Back on the alien capital, the smoke cleared. The leaders gathered in a hidden bunker. One of them asked the question everyone feared. What do they want? An old advisor stepped forward, pale and shaking. They don't want planets, they don't want power. Then what? The advisor whispered. They want the galaxy to feel what Earth felt when no one came. In the distance, beyond known, space, human warships gathered once more. Their fleet was growing, their weapons were changing, and for the first time in 100 years, the galaxy was truly afraid again, because the first strike had come, and it was only the beginning. The galaxy went quiet. After the attack on the alien capital, no one dared to speak of Earth out loud. News channels called it an unknown force. Governments lied, saying it was an isolated incident. But in secret, they all feared the same thing. The humans are back, and this time, they're not asking questions. Far away, in a forgotten sector, something stirred beneath the surface of a shattered planet. It was a world no one visited, cracked, blackened, lifeless. It was Earth, or what remained of it. Deep underground, below the ruins of burned cities and collapsed bunkers, machines blinked to life. Cold air filled tunnels untouched by time. In the center of it all, a giant chamber opened. A console lit up. A signal had arrived. It was old encrypted. Only one system could understand it. Project Echo. Inside that ancient chamber, a voice spoke from the darkness. Fleet signal confirmed. Guardian online. Phase 2 approved. Wake. The Forge. The Forge. The last living core of Earth's war-making machines, built in secret, buried after the fall. It was never meant to be used, unless every other option had failed, and it had. The floor trembled, walls shifted, gigantic arms unfolded from the rock itself. Rows of automated builders activated. They began assembling something massive, larger than any ship that had ever existed. A warship? No. A mother. A factory. A mind. It wasn't just a ship. It was the thing that built ships. The forge was alive again. Meanwhile, across the stars, alien ships patrolled nervously. Every flicker of light made them jump. Every ghost signal sent them running. But then, they caught something real. A signal. Very faint. Buried under ancient Earth code. They decoded it slowly. It read, "We are not gone. We are not broken. We are building." At that same moment, the Guardian and its fleet entered a new system, uncharted by most races. There, hidden in an asteroid field, they found an old Terran beacon still active. They scanned it. Inside was a message, never broadcast before. "If you find this, Earth still lives. Activate signal chain. Wake the remnant." The AI inside Guardian paused. It had heard legends, not files, not facts. Whispers about the remnant, the final fallback defense of Earth. Not machines, not warships. People. Cryo-sleep bunkers. Hidden in forgotten moons. Buried in gravity wells. Humans preserved until the day the warships returned. The AI sent the command. On a barren moon, a single light blinked for the first time in 400 years. Inside a steel vault, stasis pods opened, one by one. Men, women, children, still breathing, still human, still waiting. But the aliens were watching too, and one empire had followed the signal. A fleet of over 90 ships appeared above the moon. The Guardian saw them first, and acted. It didn't charge. It didn't speak. It simply transmitted one final warning. "This place is under Terran protection." The alien fleet laughed, but their laughter didn't last, because they never saw the new ships rising behind the moon. Built by the forge. Silent, smooth, faster, deadlier. The remnant was waking, and Earth was no longer a grave. The alien fleet hovered above the moon, confident, armed, unchallenged. They believed Earth had only one ship. They were wrong. From the shadows of the moon's far side, something massive began to rise. Not fast, not loud, just steady, unstoppable, alien. Sensors screamed warnings. "What is that?" asked one captain. The radar answered before the crew could blink. "Multiple warships. Human, new class, unknown design." The ships didn't match any records. Sleek, sharp, with glowing cores at their hearts. They weren't ancient, they were freshly built, from Earth's hidden forge built in hours, powered by old fury. And these weren't reawakening ships from the past. These were the next generation. The Titans. The lead alien commander stood frozen. How are they building warships again?" A whisper came from his second-in-command. They never stopped. The Guardian moved into position, flanked by the new Titan-class vessels. It looked like the general of an army long lost, now returned with heirs. It opened a wide-band signal to the alien fleet. Only one sentence came through. "You should have left the war dead." The message ended, and the sky fell apart. The Titans launched first. They didn't use old missiles or lasers. They used pulse drives that turned energy into shockwaves. With each shot, a ring of light exploded through space, tearing through cruisers like paper. Alien shields shattered. Ships lost gravity. One vessel tried to warp out. A Titan locked on and bent the warp field backward, ripping the ship apart in silence. From the moon's surface, the newly awakened humans watched the sky above them burn with fire and color. A young boy whispered, "Is that Earth's fleet?" An older voice behind him answered, "No, it's what Earth has become." Inside the forge, machines kept working. Blueprints for more ships were loading, smarter, faster, each one with the soul of the old war, rebuilt with new anger. AI commanders connected through the Guardian's core, creating a silent command web. No orders needed. Just instinct. Like one living beast made of steel and light. The alien fleet tried to retreat, but the space around them bent. Gravity mines, cloaked drones, hidden traps long buried in the system. There was no escape, and no mercy. The final alien. Command ship sent out a distress beacon, but just before it could finish, the Guardian appeared above it, silent and slow. It didn't fire. Instead, it hacked into the ship's system and took control of every screen. The image that showed? A ruined Earth, rebuilding, and below it, the words, "You watched us fall. Now you'll watch us rise." Then it fired. The ship was gone. Back on the moon, human survivors looked up in silence. Their protectors had returned, not with flags, not with speeches, but with war. Because Earth never wanted revenge, it wanted memory. Across the galaxy, governments froze. If Earth could build ships from the dead, if Earth's warfleet had survived, if humans were returning, then the war had only just begun. Galactic leaders gathered in a secure space station, deep in the heart of neutral territory. They sat behind thick walls and even thicker fear. The topic was clear. Earth. Not the broken Earth they remembered, but the Earth whose warships now tore through fleets like paper. The Earth whose AI war machines had returned with no faces, no names, and no warnings. The Earth they had left to die. "We must send peace envoys," one leader said. "They won't." "Listen," another whispered. "They're not here to talk, they're here to judge." The room fell silent. And then, the lights went out. Above the station, without a sound, dozens of Terran warships decloaked. The Guardian was at the center. Behind it, the new Titan-class ships hovered like dark gods. But this time, they didn't. They sent a single signal. "Transmission incoming." Screens inside the council hall lit up. And what the leaders saw froze their blood. It wasn't a weapon. It was footage. Footage of Earth's last days. Cities falling. Civilians screaming. Ships begging for help. Messages sent to every species in the galaxy. Every government, every empire. No one came. The screen showed empty replies. "Not our problem." "Too risky. Earth is already lost." Then the final message from Earth's leadership spoken. "As their skies burned, we will not survive, but we will be remembered. And one day so will your silence." The video ended, and then a live feed appeared. The Guardian's AI spoke, not in a voice, but through simple text on every screen. "This is not revenge. This is memory made into action. You watched Earth burn. Now you will watch yourselves. Answer." The warships began to move, not to destroy, but to judge. Each empire that had ignored Earth now faced a Terran vessel above its skies. They didn't attack first. They simply waited. If weapons were raised, they struck. If surrender came, they recorded it. If guilt was admitted, they spared. But no one was truly safe. Because Earth's ships weren't run by humans anymore. They were run by the last thing. Humans built justice without mercy. Across the galaxy, fear took root. Entire species abandoned their colonies. Some destroyed their own databases trying to erase the past. But it didn't work. Because Earth's AIs remembered everything. One empire, the same that laughed when the first human warship was scrapped, now begged for mercy. They sent a fleet of diplomats, but the Guardian answered with a message. "Mercy is for the living. You showed none. Now you live in our shadow." But just when the galaxy thought it was over, one more signal went out, not from the ships, from Earth, from deep inside. The Forge, a human voice, real, alive, tired, but calm. "We are awake." Cryopods had been opening. Survivors from long ago had survived, hidden, protected. The humans were not extinct. They were returning, and with them came a message not of war, but of warning. We will not rule this galaxy, but we will never fall again. You had your chance. Now you deal with what you created. The Terran fleet, now complete, vanished into deep space. No home, no base, just a mission to watch, to protect, to remind the stars, Earth may fall, but Earth always rises.